Scott Lanningham back at Innovate 2012. I'm here now with Ken France, Managing Partner with Mercury Consulting, an IBM Premier Business Partner. And Ken's client joins us as well. This is Liz Parnell, Director in Information Management and Analytics for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Now, I know that you presented together yesterday.
We did.
Could you give a little recap on what you talked about? You want to go first, Liz?
Absolutely, thanks. Yes, we actually did a presentation on scaling Agile for the data warehousing environment using globally distributed resources. And we had a theme around the Mythbusters, and we talked through, what were the common myths, and did we bust them, confirm them, or were they plausible? So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we basically, we just talked about how we help Blue Cross, implement Agile across the organization as well as the rational tooling.
Okay.
And it was a very well received presentation.
So did you bust some myths?
We busted 3 myths. Yeah.
Ken, what were they?
The first myth was, would you be able to break work down into small enough pieces and control the architecture throughout? So that was one myth.
Okay.
It was, can you use the rational tools, in that space, and can you scale it?
So those were the challenges that you came to Ken with, right?
Absolutely. As an organization, we were really struggling. Healthcare reform has put a tremendous amount of pressure on the healthcare industry, and really this is going to breed a lot of innovation, and so we're trying to do many cutting-edge things. We're trying to replace our dilapidated data warehouse with a brand new cutting-edge data warehouse.
Okay.
We needed to scale an enormous number of resources to be able to do it. Waterfall wasn't working. Agile was the way to go, and so we wanted to pull in some partners who could help us scale very rapidly, and some tooling that would help us keep it all in check.
Okay, so it was about innovating, it was about bringing things up to date, staying up with demand, and it was also about being more efficient. It was about all those things.
Absolutely.
So what happened?
So very interestingly, we actually kicked off a couple of pilots last year. Our first 2 pilots as an organization saved us over $2 million. And this year we've got this fantastic catchphrase that we're using called 4-9-15. It's not a locker combination. When we were using waterfall methods alone, we were only basically completing about 4 work items every 2 weeks as a cadence. Now, we weren't releasing those. We were completing around about that average.
Okay.
When we started to apply some Agile methodology, we accelerated to 9 work items, and now going full bore Scrum with all kinds of test-driven development, paired programming, all that, we're actually doing 15 work items every 2 weeks. So massive improvement.
So Ken, when you started talking with Liz and looking at their situation, how do you do an analysis of what they need and then decide how to implement it?
Yeah, it was really different for different parts of the organization, but within the IMAS area specifically, we really looked at what the organization looked like, the fact that they needed to bring in some outsourcing and some offshore components to it, where they were in their process, and really looked to bring Agile in a pragmatic way.
Okay.
So you have to realize the domain you're in, both the data warehousing, and just make certain adjustments to the process to make it successful in that environment. So we were able to look at the way they were organized and the way they were doing work and bring the right pieces of Agile to bear at the right time, and then start to incorporate the tooling as the process became more mature.
Okay, and you mentioned Scrum, right?
Yeah.
So Scrum was employed, and help me understand, and for those that might not, I know most of our audience will, but Scrum is a type of Agile development, right?
Yes.
I know it comes from a rugby term.
It does. Yeah. It's a management methodology, and we're using 2-week sprints, so 2-week iteration cycles. And the most important thing about Scrum is really around messages around empowering the team, giving the team the problem and giving them the accountability to get the work done and self-organize in the best way that they know how. You hire experts. You want them to drive how you're going to actually deliver something.
Okay.
And it's also making sure that you're maximizing the amount of work not done. So you're not filling out checklists to say you filled out a checklist and that kind of thing. You're making sure that you do just enough documentation that it's supportable and implementable.
So you lean and mean, keep
Absolutely.
moving on what you're supposed
Lean
to
is the
focus
key
on.
word.
Lean is the key word there, absolutely.
Because otherwise you're spending all your time doing documentation and you're not doing the
That's
other
right.
work you want to be doing.
That's right.
But
You're not delivering any value, and in the end we needed to deliver value and quickly and show our executives that we could really get this job done.
now, for me, that's like answering email all the time instead of doing the thing that the email asked me to do.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
Good analogy.
Ken, when you're working with clients like Liz, how do you prepare them for the cultural change that has to happen? Because I know that we hear about that all the time. That it's like, this is going to rock your world a little bit, and suffer through it because you'll be happy. I mean, is that how you talk to them?
Well, it really is. You focus on the results, right? And it's a different message to management than it is to the folks that are on the teams. Managers have to learn to manage in a different way, right? The concept of empowering the teams and not directing all the time and assigning work, but setting the objectives and letting the teams self-organize to do it. That's a big change. So I think it's just, with the management team, it's focusing on, here's the payoff, here's the results, here's how you manage differently in this environment. With the folks that are doing the work on the teams, we really need to talk to them about a sustainable pace of work. And the waterfall methodology, you oftentimes have, the schedules are set so far in advance, the requirements change so much, and you hadn't accounted for that. So you oftentimes have, lots of overtime, very stressful kind of environments. You don't see the value to the end. So the message to the teams are, you're going to see, progress, along the way. You're going to have the satisfaction of seeing that progress. You're going to have a sustainable pace of work, and just the energy level alone just starts to rise when you get folks into the process and seeing how it works. So it's really in both cases. You talk about, you give them case studies, give them your experience, and show, here's what you're going to get on the other end of this, but here's what you have to go through to get there.
I see.
And you do have to develop some internal champions that can kind of help smooth the way, people who have been there before. So when the team starts whining or saying, I don't want to change, or give me back my old lazy boy, right? You can say, no, I'm sorry, keep going. I promise you're going to love it. So you definitely need internal folks that can help and smooth that road, because it gets a little bumpy.
It's interesting, because when we talked with a client earlier, a customer earlier, about an Agile transformation, they said the biggest reason they needed to do it, their business was growing, but there was unhappiness within the teams, and they needed to have change. So you're finding that you're navigating that space between addressing their needs for a better environment and at the same time making sure that they put up with the growing pains they have to do to get there in the first place.
That's right. And the 4-9-15 that Liz went through, the teams, they feel like they're enjoying themselves more, they're having fun. They didn't quite necessarily see the concrete results, but when we showed them those numbers, they were like, wow, not only are we really enjoying ourselves, but the proof's in the pudding.
So we were hearing this message that, Agile is fun, but I don't think we're going any faster. And so when we showed them those numbers, they were like, oh, I suppose we are.
Wow. So the improvement was somewhat invisible to them, but they were happier.
But they were having fun.
That's right.
So we just pushed, pizza and Mountain Dew over to them as quickly as possible. Keep them going, keep them going.
So those good numbers were like icing on the cake for them, right?
Exactly right.
So what else are you all doing here this week? I know you're busy with a lot of things.
Want to go first?
Well, I actually had the privilege of getting Scrum Master certified. I participated in one of the earlier classes that Mercury sponsored.
Oh, that's right. You did mention that you brought Scrum Master certification.
Yeah, this was the first year that the conference offered Scrum Master certification, so we brought in a couple classes for that, had great attendance, great feedback on it, and as Liz mentioned, she got to attend one of the classes.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. You think you know quite a lot about Agile and Scrum techniques, and then you go to a class like that and it just elevates that extra 10 or 20% that it gets you excited about going back in.
So the Scrum thing comes from rugby, and I guess this is like, rugby's all about that teamwork and moving around in a pile, and even more than they say football, American football, which is more this isolated strategy. I mean, they're working as a team, but I guess that's where it all comes from, right?
It really is. It really is exactly where it comes from. It's the work of that team, cohesiveness, working together to get the job done, get the ball across the line.
Is it as rough as rugby?
Oh, we've lost a few years, absolutely.
A few broken bones, but it's all worth it for the payoff.
Well, thank you both so much for stopping by. It's a real pleasure talking with you.
Appreciate it.
Again, Ken France is managing partner with Mercury Consulting and IBM Premier Business Partner, and Liz Parnell, his client, is Director in Information Management and Analytics for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. We're at Innovate 2012. We'll be right back.